I have implemented a API key authentication to secure our endpoints. As you can see here, I have created a API key auth filter class where it will validate the each and every API. For example, when you make any request to the system through the API, the system will redirect to this do filter internal method where it will scan and validate whether the API key is correct or whether the API key is passed through the API request or not. If the validation is successful, then it will move to the further process to return the actual response. But if the validate is failed, then the API request will get failed, like invalid API key, like that. Let me show you a simple demo. For that, I have already started the application. As you can see here, the application is already started and it is running on the port number 8080 with the context part Newty API key. Let me open the Swagger documentation where we can easily make a request. Even we can do this by using Postman as well, but if you can see the Swagger, there is a clear and defined structure with all the predefined example request and example response, etc., etc. So mostly we will prefer to use the Swagger, and we will use for Postman as well for the testing. Okay, let me start with the first API. Okay, for this I need some values like property ID and check-in date, check-out dates. Let me start with the rates API to check the availability of the particular property between the date range with some of the number of rooms and currency, etc., etc. Let me start with the simple property ID that I have already exist, and let me try to check for 2022. Between November 22 and November 23, with adults as 2 and children as 1, and children age is 10, and currency let me give as USD, and nationality as US, and language as English. Okay, for now we will give it as a false. Let me see what will be the response. As you can see here, already the request happens and you are encountering a 404 error. The 404 error means unauthorized error because we didn't provided the API key through the request. So now the API request is failed, we didn't get any response as well. So let me add an API key. As you can see here in the Swagger documentation, there is a button to authorize the APIs. For that, on click of this authorize, you can see it is asking for the API key because this we have already defined in the Swagger configurations what value it will accept. So let me provide the correct API key that I have given and authorize the APIs. Now let me make a request again, and as you can see here the request is processing to the system, and before it was failed instantly because with the invalid API key response. Now you can see here you got a response 200. There are hotel ID, offers, suppliers, and the supplier rooms, amount, what is the amount of the room, and having any images of the room, if there is any extras, sofas, bed, facilities. You can see there are multiple rates which we got from the supplier Newty, and you can see here our command console as well, and I am printing all the loggers as well. Okay, let me check again. If I unauthorize again and I will try to make reservation, I will try to make a request again to get the availability. See, again we got an invalid API key result. If I authorize again, then it will work. It is loading because the data we need to fetch from the new tip. As you can see here, the API is successful and the rates also fetched successful, and the data is also in structured format. Even the front-end developer can understand easily and use that data to display in the system. And let me try with a wrong API key, like something I given. I authorize, but when I try to make a request, it is again file like invalid API key. So as I think you understood what is the importance of this API key authentication to secure our APIs. So no other or anyone can use our APIs without our permissions. So for that purpose we implemented the JDev. Open the Postman to test this, how we tested in the Swagger. In the same way we will test in the Postman as well, whether these APIs are working or not. Okay, let me open the Postman, and this is the Postman to where we can test our APIs as well. Okay, as you can see here, I have constructed the API URL, that is rates, as you can see here, and there is a request body as well, where we are trying to get the availability rates for the November 21 and 22 for the property ID, and for 2 adults and 1 children, and the currency and nationality is US. And as you can see here, there are headers also exist where I am providing the API key to make the request successful and to get the OK response from the system. For example, okay, let me send a request, and the request will go to our server. From our server, the process will get executed and it is returning success response as well. As you can see here, the same response which we are getting from the Swagger as well, the same response we are getting in this Postman also, because we are calling same API in both Swagger and Postman. Okay, let me try to remove the API key from the request. Now the API key will not send through the request. So what will be the response we will get from the system? As you can see here, again I am getting invalid API key because we didn't provided the API key in the rates API request. So even now again I will enable the API key to send the API key through the API request. Now again I send a request to the system. As you can see here, again I got the actual response, good response. Okay, let me try with the wrong API key whether we will get the response or not. I'm giving some random string and send a request. As you can see here, again I got invalid API key.